I was just like naive to the fact that my mum owned properties. Like she was giving me a free flat, but what she actually did, and she didn't tell me, is that she sold it and she kept the money for me.
You were married at the age of what?
19.
Say that with your chest. How old?
19.
19.
Yeah, being married at such a young age, I think you're still growing, you're still developing. I'm not the same person I was when I was 19. There was a lot of immaturities that I had. So yeah, I just started doing like different courses, and again the research. I just started researching like different, like how do I do this? How do I make? Because I realized that this is now going to become a business. See, the hardest part again was finding a space, because these things aren't cheap. Do you know what I mean? Especially as a commercial space. Again, research, and I realized that I was able to do it. I was able to open Tots Playroom last year, 2023. Because yes, even though you can say that you want to do something, you really have to plan finances. Because I'm just an ordinary person. I don't come from wealth.
Exactly.
I don't come from, a certain class.
Welcome to Not Another Money Podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money Podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Hi, Mariam.
Hi, Tolu.
Welcome to Not Another Money Podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to have you on, and thank you for honouring the invitation to be a guest.
It's an honour. It is an honour, because I don't do things like this. But yeah, this is an absolute honour. So I'm really grateful that you asked me to come on. So
no, thank you. And I'm really grateful that you said yes to come on. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation. We've got a lot to unpack and a lot to dive into. But before we do all of that, and before we start unpacking everything, it would be good for you to introduce yourself to the audience and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Mariam. I am 32. Yes, I am. Wow, I have to remember my age. I'm a mother of 3 at the moment. Why am I saying at the moment?
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
exclusive on the podcast.
No. Why am I saying at the moment? God, please.
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth
oh my
is
gosh,
speaking.
I don't even know why I said that. I am a mother of 3. That is it. I've got 2 boys
No backtracking
and
now.
a girl. Oh my gosh. And yeah, I own a stay and play cafe.
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called Tots Playroom.
Yeah, and where can we find it? Where's Tots Playroom?
I am located in Mottingham, Eltham, so SE9 area.
Yeah, brilliant. We're going to talk a lot more about Tots Play and the journey to starting that business. But before we do, at the beginning of the show, what I like to do is I like to play a game with my guests. And it's just a game of would you rather, but it's the money edition. So I'll give you a few scenarios and I'll ask, would you rather A or B? And then you just basically tell me which one. And if I want to know, I might probe and ask you why you picked that answer. Right. Would you rather owe someone money or have someone owe you money?
I would rather someone owe me money.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Why?
I think because I'm one of those people that forget that I've given the person money.
Yeah.
So if they pay me back, then that's a good thing. Like, wow. But if they don't, then it's water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But if I owe someone money, I won't be able to sleep.
Yeah.
No. I can't do that.
No, fair enough. I mean, I'll go with B too, depending on the amount.
Okay. It's true, actually.
I mean, you can only
there's still a limit.
Maximum, but beyond that, no.
Yeah, there's still a limit. It's not that. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, the next one. Are you more of a spender or are you a saver?
Oh, I'm definitely a spender.
Yeah.
I'm definitely so sad to say that, but I am. I can say so. What is good is that I do save, and then when I have a goal, like if there's something that I'm saving towards, whether it's like a holiday or like a dress for a birthday or something, a pair of shoes or whatever, then I will just spend, and I will just keep spending it. So even though I've saved the money for it, I will just feel like, oh, I've done really good saving now, so I'm gonna treat myself, and I'm gonna spend it. But then I end up spending more than what I've saved.
Than what you had initially saved.
So,
hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, would you rather have £1 million today or £10,000 a day for the rest of your life?
Definitely £10,000 a day for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, why?
Because then you become a millionaire, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, so
eventually.
like I said about the saving, I can save. Um, and I will save until a certain goal. So if I have that for the rest of my life, then I will just keep saving and spending, keep saving and spending. So yeah.
I think I would go with that as well. I think
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, actually, I changed my mind sometimes when I answer this question.
Oh,
Because
is it?
sometimes I'm like,
You
no,
need
give me
things
that million.
sometimes.
Yeah. Because I can do a lot with that right now.
That's true.
But then at the same time, just knowing that I won't have to ever think about money again because that money's coming every day.
Absolutely.
That would be nice.
That's it.
And so last one,
Yeah.
would you rather have free, unlimited food from wherever you want
Oh my goodness, this is
forever,
my love
or
language.
free love language, or free unlimited travel for the rest of your life?
Oh, that's so hard. But then I'm gonna be fat if I do number one or if I do A. I love food, so food is my love language.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone knows me, I go out to eat. That is just what makes me happy. I
Yeah.
love trying new restaurants. I like trying new food. That is my love language. So, but then traveling is also just wonderful. I think I would have to say A.
Yeah.
I think so.
You're gonna not change
It's
your
just
mind.
no. I think it's
Food.
just because food just makes me happy. I know traveling does, but you know, I think if I have to choose food, like a good like meal, and then like going to Barbados or something, I might have to choose the good meal. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. Sounds
Oh, you
weird.
really are a foodie.
I love food. Yeah.
What's
Makes
your
me happy.
go-to food? Favorite?
Rice and stew.
Oh, you're so Nigerian.
I know. That's my go-to.
Really?
I actually just love rice. I could eat that for the rest
Rice
of my life.
and stew.
Yeah,
That is
but
so basic.
as in my favorite cuisine to eat out, I like Pan Asian food.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Wow, rice and stew. My mum would have loved that growing up. Boy.
I didn't even like it growing up. That's the
No.
problem. Like I liked it, but I think now that I'm older,
You
that's like my
appreciate
go-to.
it.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Rice and stew. That's so funny. You skip the pounded jam. You
I
skip
know. I'm
skip
not
the
even.
ogbono.
I know. A bit like amala maybe.
Amala.
I love amala
Over pounded
with
jam.
ewedu or okra. Nah, I don't like pounded jam. You know. Yeah.
You've offended me. You don't like
It's
pounded
too
jam?
stodgy. I don't mind it, but I prefer amala and eba.
We should end the episode here, you know, like.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, eba,
Wow.
amala.
I think you're the first Nigerian person I've ever met.
It's
to
my
not
mum.
Like pounded
It's
jam.
my mum.
Oh, she doesn't like pounded jam either.
She is the one that made. Yeah, she steered my life. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. But she steered my life. So in terms of what she made, she didn't. She always used to say pounded jam will make you fat. So I'd rather you eat amala. Yeah.
What? I wonder if there's actually any truth in that. It's so funny the things that our parents tell us that we just take as factual,
literally.
and then that's it. It just frames our beliefs. That's hilarious. Okay, no, thank you for playing.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's cool. And then the next thing I like to do before we jump into the heart of the conversation is, this is not another money podcast, as you know, and I like to ask my guests to share not another money moment, which essentially is where you share a significant money memory, either from childhood or adulthood, that's kind of had a significant impact on you or made you think about money in a different way, perhaps.
Okay, so significant impact. I think, I want to say when when I was planning on getting married when I was 19, I know that's very
Spoiler
young.
alert.
I know. I didn't realise. So my mum owned a house at that point. She owned like 2 houses. And there was a time where, obviously, you know, when you're looking to rent. And I was like, yeah, I want to move out of my area. At that point, my mum had a flat in Wharf Road and I didn't want that flat. So she was asking me, do you want the flat? And I was like, nah, I want to spread my wings. I want to rent. I want to, you know, rent somewhere new and fancy with my soon-to-be husband. So at that point in my mindset, I think I was just like naive to the fact that my mum owned properties. Like she was giving me a free flat.
What?
Like a flat that she would be my landlord and I would pay like chicken change to. But I was like, nah, I want to rent. I want to, you know, go Crystal Palace. I want to go like, you know, to these all like random places and like spread my wings or whatever. So she was like, okay, that's fine. And then anyway, we ended up renting, but it came to about 5 years down the line when we wanted to buy now. And my mum sort of said to me, like, look, you see, you could have sort of had that, the flat that I had for you, like that was mine essentially, and you could have had that, and then, you know, essentially it could have been in your name, you could have sold that, you could have, you know, bought another place by that point. But what she actually did, and she didn't tell me, is that she sold it and she kept the money for me. And she used that money so that we could buy our first property.
Wow.
Which was so lovely because she didn't have to do that.
Wow.
So I guess that was like a significant moment, because I guess it opened up my eyes in terms of like money and like not even finances, but just the way you do things. Like, because I was like, I think I was very naive in my thinking at that point as a teenager. Like, you know, if someone's offering you like a property that was, you know, essentially free, that I should have taken that, right?
Yeah.
But instead I wanted to have my own place. I wanted to have, you know, I wanted to move out somewhere new, like into a different area. And my mum, you know, still within her wisdom, was like, okay, don't worry, she'll need it one day. Do you know what I mean? And she stored that for me, and then she used that. And yeah, basically, you know, I ended up, we both, me and my husband ended up buying our first property with that. So I would say that was a significant moment, because yeah, it just made me realize that, wow, I would want to do the same thing for my children.
That's incredible. Shout out to your mumsy, like, because let's add the fact that she did that by herself as well.
Yeah,
didn't
she did as
like,
a single mom.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's a big money moment.
Yeah,
like, that is a boss
I think,
move.
I would say that it opened up my eyes, definitely.
Yeah. I'm smiling from ear to ear. I'm like, yeah, that is huge. Like, I would love as a parent to be able to do that kind of thing for my child as well, or for my children. Yeah,
because I think it's nice. I think obviously I was the only child, so it was a bit easier, I guess, because, you know, there wasn't any more. And obviously now looking at my children, I've got 3. I would love to do that. Probably wouldn't be able to do it to that capacity, but even if it is something that you could give, I think it's the mindset, isn't it? Yes. Just storing up for your children, which is what the Bible says. It's even anyway, biblical, you know. Exactly. So yeah, I think
that's a big money moment.
Yeah,
that's good. No, thank you for sharing that. That's why I love doing this segment, because every guest has a really interesting money moment to share, and I think this is probably the biggest money moment that I've heard so far in terms of a parent's input on that money moment.
My mum's really helped me a lot. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the main heart of the conversation, and we're going to talk a little bit more about something you mentioned earlier on, actually, and that was the fact that you were married at the age of what?
19.
Say that with your chest. How old?
19.
19. Yeah. 19 years young, you got married. So can you take us back to that time when you decided that you wanted to get married at that age? What made you know, or made you think at that time, that marriage was the path for you and that you were ready for it? How did you know?
So I think that's sort of like a hard question to answer, just because I don't. In fact,
before we go into that,
okay,
a bit of a backstory. Sorry, right, I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Okay.
We want to set the scene. So you got married at 19.
Yes, yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that backstory in terms of your husband, how you met him.
Okay, how we met. Right, I come from a Muslim background, so I never really, you know, attended church or anything like that. So at the age of 14/15, I started going to a church. I'd got saved, and I started going to a church in Old Kent Road. And
when you say got saved, what does that mean? I'm thinking for the listeners.
Yeah. So I got saved, meaning I gave my life to Christ. I was standing at a bus stop. This was completely foreign to me. I was standing at a bus stop with my friend, and 2 men came and gave us a leaflet, and it had like details of a church service on there. And then they started telling us about Jesus. They started talking to us about where we would go if we were to pass away. And obviously we had never had anyone question us at this age. I mean, we were only like 14, and we were just like, what is going on? Like, I've never thought about my life. I've never thought about where I would go when I die. I just never came into my thought pattern. So, you know, they were just challenging our thought process. You know, I think we were even on our way to a party at that point. They were like, look, imagine if you got on the bus and you died. And we were just like, oh my gosh, like, this is just too much. But anyway, at that point for me, I think it was just a bit like, okay. But my friend at the time was really, really like taken to it. And she was crying, and she ended up praying with the people that were there on the streets at the bus stop, and they invited us to a church service on a Thursday, which was when it was at that point. So we ended up going to the service, and I liked it. It was really nice. There was so many young people in the church, but I didn't really stay. We would attend a lot of events that they used to do. So they used to do a lot of concerts, singing, rapping, dancing, things like that. So that really appealed to me, obviously, as a young person. But I think a year later is when I actually realised that I was a sinner, meaning that I knew that I needed Christ, that I felt very empty, and I felt like my life was incomplete, and the only way that it was going to be complete was by inviting Jesus into my life. So yeah, when I mean I got saved, I mean that I gave my life to Christ, and I realized that I needed him in my life, and I wanted to live for him. So that was at the age of, I always say 14/15, because that period of time was a bit of a muddle, but I want to say 14 or maybe 15. I think I was 15. So at that time, like I said, there was a lot of young people in our church, and that is where I met my husband, meaning he was also a guy, part of our youth group that we used to attend, and he was the same age as me, and he had recently given his life to Christ the year before as well. So there was an outbreak of loads of young people giving their life to Christ at that point. So yeah, that's how we met. We were just friends in church. So, there wasn't any like prerequisites or anything. It was just literally, we were friends in church at that point. So yeah, that was the backstory. I met him, and he liked me. So I was told by a few people at the time. And obviously, again, we were young, so there wasn't really anything we could do. We just had to read our book and go to school, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So we went to school, we read our book, and obviously we just continue to grow as friends in a friendship setting within our church, and things that we would do. And at the age of 17, so this was when I was in my second year of college, he asked me out. So he asked to date me. So I obviously said yes, because I liked him and he was my friend, and I think that was the basis of our relationship, because we were friends first. It was like I knew that, I wanted to marry him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because, it wasn't like just off the cold from the street, like, oh, what's your name, number, da da da. It was more of a genuine, foundation. And at that point, I'd known his mum, his nan, his aunt, his brother, because they had all attended church as well. So I felt like there wasn't, it wasn't cold. It was very natural. So he asked me to date at 17, and then we literally, I want to say within a year, he proposed. So at 18, I know it sounds really weird, but he proposed at 18 when I was in my first year of uni, or when I was in my first year of uni, and then I got married at 19, a couple of months later.
So what was it that made you know that he was the one?
So I would say, again, like what I was talking about, I think I wouldn't say that I knew he was the one, but what I did know and what I did like about him was the fact that he was confident as a person, as a man, as a boy, and I had seen that obviously in school and things like that, but he just was a leader, a natural leader. He didn't follow the crowd, and I think that stood out to me a lot, because a lot of guys now, they just follow, not everyone, but it just was very attractive. So I think for me that stood out a lot, and I didn't know he was the one, but what I did is I had faith, I guess, and I just took that leap of faith to say, like, look, I like him, he likes me, and because of our faith in Christ, in God, I believe I'm going to trust that it's going to work, sort of thing. So I don't really believe in the one, because I believe that God gives us like people in our lives who we can potentially be married to, and it's our choice whether we obviously say yes or no. And obviously I said yes to him, and I believe that that is what God wanted, because it was part of his plan, sort of thing. So it It was.
Can you get all
you
giddy?
know, I know. I know. I don't, when you talk about it, it's so long ago. So it's like, you know, but
reliving some of those childhood memories,
I know,
right?
I know.
So then talk to us a little bit about your wedding day then, what that was like and how you felt in that moment. Because as you said, you were 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, maybe you might have had some people that had reservations about you getting married so young. So talk to me about what that whole experience was like.
So when we initially said that we were going to get married at 19, I obviously told my mum. He met my mum and he asked for my permission. She was fine, but I think she didn't understand that it was going to be
so soon,
so quickly. I think in her mind she was like, yeah, like after you finish uni, once you buy a house, once you settle down, it was like, this was, you know, in her mind she was thinking probably like at the age of 22, 23, 24, you know. But we were like, no, like we want to get married like now. And so I guess, she did sort of have her reservations, and she wasn't, not that she wasn't happy, but I think she was just a natural concern as a mother. Now looking back, obviously I understand. At that age, I think I was just like, you know, come on, like it's a good thing. Like, you know, this is something that you should be happy about, that your children want to be married and do things the right way. But as a mum now, I see obviously why she would have her reservations, because that is quite a young age. There's a lot of 19-year-olds still don't even know what they want to do with their lives. So how do you know that marriage is for you know right there and right then? But I was very happy because I think my husband was very, again, he's quite we always say he's like a granddad. He's like a man in a boy's body. He has a way. He's got an old soul. He's got a way with words, a way with people, and with older people. And I think my mum, knowing him, meeting him, reassured him, and I think she realised that I was going to be in safe hands because of how he was as a person. So, regarding my mum, she was, I think, okay, even though she sort of wanted it the traditional way of me going to finishing uni and, you know, doing it the way that the African way, if you get what I mean. But no, we just didn't want to wait, just because we just thought, why are we waiting? You know, the opportunity is there. It wasn't going to affect my studies. I was still going to be in uni. I wasn't going to drop out or anything like that. So, you know, in terms of people being, you know, I think a lot of people were supportive because our church community, there was quite a few people getting married at that point anyway. And I know my husband's family, my in-law, my mother-in-law, she had seen it. She'd, you know, her son, her elder son, had just previously got married, and he was, I believe, 21 or 2 at that point, maybe, I think 20. So there was the dynamic and the culture of our church. There was a lot of young people getting married. So I think in terms of family and people, like, you know, looking at it, I think they were quite supportive in the end. Yeah.
And your wedding day, what was that like for you?
Oh, wow.
And, how were you feeling?
It was like a blur, you know.
Really?
Because it went so quickly. I always say, like, I wish I took more like, I don't even think, did we even of course we had iPhones, but yeah, I wish I could relive it, because obviously I do see pictures now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't remember that point and this point. But it was lovely in a sense where, you know, it was my wedding day, but I think it went so quickly. And if I was to ever redo my wedding again, I think I would take more, like, you know, just, you know, live it in the live in the moment, as opposed to worry about the next stages of, oh, I need to do this and I've got this and have this been done, and, you know,
No, and then I guess still on the theme of marriage a little bit more is, how did you know that you were ready at the age you were ready? Like, what made you think at 19 I'm ready for this path?
I don't think I knew I was ready.
Really?
Again, I think the faith aspect, me being really deep in my faith, I think it was all a leap of faith. Again, like what I said with the whole, how did, you know, you asked me about how did I know he was the one. I didn't know he was the one. It was a leap of faith. And again, with this, I think I didn't know whether this, you know, no one in my family like that was married. Like, it's not like I'd seen examples of marriage. So I think for me, it was another leap of faith. It was just trusting God that he was going to do it, and that this was a good thing that he wanted for me and for my husband. So yeah, that's literally all I can boil it down to.
Yeah, you stepped out in faith, you trusted God, and look, here we are today. How many years have you been married, sorry?
13.
13 years married.
Yes, it is.
Amazing. And still looking 21. And I guess the journey over these last 13 years probably have had some highs and some lows, right? So
absolutely.
what would you say, especially particularly in the earlier years of marriage, would you say were some of the challenges that you perhaps faced?
I think, again, being married at such a young age, I think you're still growing, you're still developing. I'm not the same person I was when I was 19. I'm 32 now, so I think there was a lot of immaturities that I had. So, you know, again, that's natural. But I think I would like to say that why marriage is so beautiful and being married at such a young age is so beautiful is that you learn to grow with one another and you learn one another. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. So I think for me, I could say yes, there was immature like decisions that I made. There were things that I did that I probably look back on and think, oh, you know, I I didn't really need to do that, or vice versa. But I think ultimately it's the fact that we've grown from it and we've moved on from it. You know, year after year, you learn more about yourself. You learn more about your spouse. And yeah, you invest. Yeah, the challenges were more so, I want to say, maybe lack of communication, not being able to communicate properly or effectively. I think now as I've gotten older, and being around, like being in a workplace and things like that, you know, obviously, you're taught to, you know, especially, I don't know if it's the same with you, but in an African household, you're taught to just say yes and no. Like you don't answer back, you don't talk back, it's either yes or it's either no. So it's like, you know, trying to come away from that now and put yourself in a marriage. You have to be able to communicate how you feel. You know, you have to be able to articulate and explain, like, if there is something on your mind, if there's something that, you know, you guys want to work at. And I think for me that probably was hard because I didn't really understand how to, and so now learning myself and knowing that, I would say that was probably one of the challenges. Yeah.
And so last thing on this part of the conversation, then what would you say to maybe people wanting to consider getting married young? Like, are you one to say advocate for it or not advocate for it, or what advice would you give to people
I think
it?
somebody asked me this the other day actually, and we got into a big debate because the same thing, the person said to me, but you got married at 19, like, what do you mean? So they asked me, would you let your children get married at the same age? And I said no.
Oh, you said no?
Well, do you know what? I didn't say, I said no very flippantly, but then I retract and I said, actually, it depends. So again, I think being young and on fire, zealous, you know, we just wanted to do things for God, and we just wanted to use all our energy and our passion. Like, we thought Jesus was coming back the next day. And I think for us, you know, Jesus could be coming back the next day, to be honest. You know, his return is imminent. But what I meant by that is our focus was just on doing God's will. And I'm not saying that our generation and the generations now is not, but what I do see is that people now, especially the youth and the young people getting married now, they're leaving it later and later and later on just because they want to do certain things. They want to be accomplished, like they want to get their house, they want to get their car, they want to do this, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. And I would want the same for my children. And again, like referring back to my mum, I said, like, now being a mum, the reason why I would say it depends is because I think you have to be a certain type of person to be able to get married at that age. And again, my husband, because of the person he was, I don't know if I wasn't with him, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But because of the person that he was and the direction that he had, I think that's why it worked. So if my boys, I've got 2 boys, if they're anything like their dad, then I would say absolutely get married at that age.
So what are the character traits that he possesses?
Again, I think it's just knowing what... So he even said it before he got saved, before he gave his life to Christ. He said it to a group of his friends in secondary school. He was like, I'm going to get married and I'm going to be married young. And that was such a weird thing to say because like no one talks about marriage when you're like, especially guys as well,
Exactly.
when you're 14, 13, like that's weird, you know, that's something a girl says, like, oh, I'm gonna get married, my princess, like, you know, dress. You just talk about things like that. But you know, apparently he used to say it a lot with his friendship groups, like, yeah guys, you know, I'm not about that life you're gonna see, I'm gonna be married. And this was even before he got saved, so he had a clear direction of what he wanted, and he was confident. And I think just decisions that he made from a young age was able to help him as he got older. So I think just being knowing what you want from a young age, I think that is the most important thing. Not being swayed by other people's decisions, and not being peer pressured to do something that other people want you to do. I think knowing what you want, being confident in yourself. So I think those are the specific character traits I would say, you know, and even for my daughter as well, because for me, I wouldn't say that I was like that. I think my husband helped me to become like that. So I think if she again was to marry someone like her dad, then absolutely I would be very reassured. And again, my boys, if they were like that, then yes. But I still would probably say maybe 21. Maybe just
get to 21.
Maybe 21. Like I don't mind you getting married, but 19 is just a little bit too young. No, I'm joking. If they want to, absolutely, I would support them. But yeah, it depends.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then the next question I had was moving on to the next stage of your marriage. So you were married for how many years before you decided to start having kids, or started having
5
children?
years.
So 5 years in, you had your first child. Yes. So what was that like, that experience transitioning from being just the two of you to having your firstborn?
So for the first 5 years, so obviously I got married at 19. 2021, 2022, 24, sorry. I had to count. Those 5 years, I was still at uni. So I finished uni at that point, and then I started working. So I started teaching, and I think, how long was I teaching for before about 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years. So we had planned. We knew that after I wanted to finish uni, and I wanted to sort of be working for a couple of years before we had our first child. So we were renting again. And at that point, this is when we decided that we wanted to buy, because we thought, right, we're having a child now and we want to buy a home, you know, somewhere where we're not being like looking over our head thinking, is the landlord going to kick us out? Do you know what I mean? With children. The transition, I would say, when we first had him, changed everything. Like, it changed my whole entire mindset. I think for the first 5 years of marriage, I think even though I was married, it was like it was like two single people living together. And what I mean by that, it wasn't bad. We did spend time with each other a lot, but we both had very busy lives. So he was doing an apprenticeship at that point. I think he just qualified. So obviously work for him, and then again I'm studying, working part-time, and then obviously I finished uni, then I had to, you know, so we're both working, we're both, you know, so we would probably wake up in the morning, go about our business, and then see each other again in the evening. And that was how it was every single day. So you know, and then obviously on top of that, you got social lives, you got friends, you got birthdays, you got things like that. So, you know, I would say once I had Marcus, my firstborn, it changed the whole dynamic of everything. Obviously I'm at home now. So I'm on mat leave, and obviously my husband, you know, at that point, I think he decided that he wanted to contract because he wanted to be a bit more flexible as well. So that was also in transition. So yeah, I want to say that the dynamic of our home changed in a good way, because it meant that, you know, obviously we are trying to spend more time as a family together. You know, we've got this baby now that we've got to raise, you know what I mean? I no longer lived as a single person, like, not like that, but in a respect that I just, I had to care for another human being. So I was at home, and I was caring for my child, and then obviously, going back to work, I decided not to go back to work full time. I went back part time. So again, that was a big change as well. So it changed my mindset as well, in terms of just like working life. You know, before I was quite very ambitious, like, and I still am, but in terms of, I was just very like, I just want to do this, I want to do that. And then I think having him sort of the focus started to
change the focus. Yeah. And in terms of before having him versus having him, what was your expectation like of motherhood versus reality? Like, was it what you thought it was going to be, or what different things came up
No,
that you
it's
never
definitely
expected?
different. I don't think anyone can prepare you for motherhood. There's no handbook. There's no guide. There's no, no. There's nothing. There's nothing. Like, people, obviously, again, I was fortunate to have a lot of people around me that had children, and obviously you can watch them from a distance, but you will never know until it's you.
Yeah.
Because every child is different as well. So, it was, yeah, it was. There was the expectation. I don't think I even had any. I think it was just I fully gave myself into it, and I loved it. Actually, I love it, and I still love it. But yeah, there's nothing that can prepare you for motherhood.
Yeah,
absolutely nothing.
And what's the best part of being a mum, would you say?
Oh, my babies. What's the best part? I think obviously just hugging them every day and giving them little kisses and stuff like that. I don't think I have one thing. I think that one thing that I am grateful for, I guess the question I would probably turn it is to say that I get to raise like these children, like the fact that God chose me to raise these human beings. Like, why did he give them to me? Like, it's just, it fascinates me. It blows my mind. Like, who am I to what have I done to have, like, not full power, but essentially, me and my husband, we are, raising a generation of, men, women who are, by the grace of God, going to change society, going to change, their friendship group or whatever. So I just feel like I'm so grateful and appreciative of the fact that I'm able to have children and raise them.
That's
I
the
have
best
one
part
best.
of
That's the best
motherhood.
part.
Yeah,
Exactly, the fact that I get to raise them. And
no,
absolutely. It's
absolutely.
beautiful.
I think I'd probably agree with that actually. In terms of like the best thing about being a mum, I just like watching them, to be honest, and listening to their conversations and seeing their different personalities and watching their interactions.
That's it. The fact that they've both come from you, it's like they're just so different. Like,
and they're all different. I have 4 boys, honestly, and they're all so different. And just watching their interactions, and it's entertaining.
It is entertaining.
I think it was not long after you had your firstborn, right, that you decided to publish a children's book.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that and what inspired you to write those books?
When I had my first son, my mindset changed a lot. So I was working in a school. I was working 5 days a week, and then after I went back from maternity leave, I went down to 3 days. So during that time, I just felt like, well, during maternity, actually, I would do a lot of things with my son at that point. I used to take him to a lot of like baby and toddler groups, like baby nursery rhyme, like just, these little mum groups that, because obviously you're at home literally every single day, and I was breastfeeding. So you just feel like you're a cow for the whole entire day. So I needed some social like stimulation, do you know what I mean? So I would take him to a lot of these things, and I did it for myself, whether he liked it or not. I did it for myself because I'm a sociable person. I like talking to people. I like being out. So and we'll go library. So I would just do the most. I mean, at this point he was like 5-6 months, but I loved it. And I loved reading to him, so we always used to read to him. Again, my background is English. I studied English literature and language in uni, so I used to write a lot of poems. Back in the day, I used to write lyrics for songs.
Oh no,
I know,
not
I
a
was
rapper.
one of those ones. Oh no!
What was your rap name?
No, I'm not.
You can't share it.
I'm not doing that. I didn't have a rap name. So anyway, I used to write a lot, and I think I just started. It was like God just started putting like words in my heart, and I just started writing like almost like children's I want to say books. They weren't even books at that point, but I guess messages. So I would just start writing them. I put it on my notes on my phone, and again, obviously I used to read a lot of literature to my son at that point anyway, so things like Goldilocks and the Freedom, things like that. But I just thought, I just want something with more meaning. Like, these books, they're good. Like, they're all like nursery, books and like novels and things like that. But I just, there were other books again, but there just wasn't many, especially with like black boys and characters on them at the time. And I was just like, I just don't understand. Like, again, it would be like in America, you would have to source them in America. And I was just like, there's no like British, like black British, like books that have like black boys on them, or it's all about girls like with their hair and things like that, but there just wasn't any with boys at that point. So anyway, like I said, I was just writing, and then I had a friend, and she actually is a children's book publisher. She writes preteen books. And I think I was just sharing with her in conversation about some of the books that at that point, I didn't even call it a book. I was just saying like I'd written like different stories like for children. And she said, you should actually publish them. And I was like, do you think, like, is that something like that people do? Like, is that something I can just do? Like, just anyone can write and then you can publish? And she was like, yeah, like, you just... Of course you can. So I was like, okay. So obviously that was in the back of my mind. And then I started researching and looking into that. And I realised how hard it was, because obviously I'm looking at people like, is it JK? Yeah, JK Rowling, one that wrote Harry Potter. And she was, again, similar story. She was a mum and she was on maternity leave. And she spent her maternity leave writing Harry Potter novels in a local cafe or a local coffee shop of hers. So literally, and she that was it, so I those are the sort of stories I was reading, and I was like, wow, like this is actually possible, sort of thing. So anyway, I started contacting a few publishers, again with the help of my friend. She was already in that world, and I decided to send off a manuscript to a publisher, and they accepted it. Wow. And from then, I know it sounds so like quick and easy. It wasn't. It took probably about 1.5 years, I guess. Yeah. And I was fortunate again to have another friend who does illustrations and digital art. And he was able to draw my pictures, and I just put the vision toward, like, to him, and he was able to like draw exactly how I want the pictures of the book to sort of illustrate. So yeah, they took it on and they ended up publishing it in oh my gosh, was it 2017? Yeah, 2017.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then you went on to do another one, didn't you?
Then I did another one in 2018. Yeah.
Wow,
2018
soon
or
after.
2019. Yeah.
And what was the most challenging part about of the process in terms of publishing the book and writing the book?
It was hard because you don't really know where to go. Like, there's still a lot of people that I come across now who ask me, they ask me like, how did you do it and stuff, and I always just say to them that I think whenever I have an idea, the first thing I do is I just start researching. I just start Googling, like, okay, how, I know it sounds so weird, but I just write, how do I write a book, or how to get a publisher, or how to, whatever. And then I just go from there. So I think what was hard for me was that I actually thank God that I had a friend who was already in that world. I think if I didn't have her, I don't think I 100% wouldn't be here. I had two friends that allowed me to get to where I was in terms of writing the book. But the challenge, I would say, was just not having things accessible. Like, you sort of have to find it. You sort of have to go out your way, which I guess is everything in life. So yeah, for me, it was just the fact that I had to do that research, and I had to like find, publishers, and had to find like, even till today, I'm still trying to find things as well, like regarding my book, like literary agents. And it's such a long process because you could be looking for these things for like 10 years. Yeah. And a lot of people give up. So, I just want to say, just having that accessibility, like to these things, like knowing, like, sometimes you sort of just want someone to coach you and just be like, right, this is how you do it. Go to this bit and go over here and then turn left here, and then you can get this, and then go here, and then this is how much. So yeah, for me, the challenge was just having to do everything myself, like find like everything myself.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then the best part of the experience was?
Oh, holding my book. Yeah. The best part of it, it was that satisfaction of knowing that, wow, like, I can't believe I've done that. Like,
your name is literally on the book.
It was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was the best part. I think it was the end product.
Yeah. And the event was amazing as well that you did.
Oh, the book launch, yes.
Book launch,
I think I was pregnant with my
I think
second
you was,
son
yeah.
at that point. Yeah. So yeah, that was again a blur. That was such a blur, but yeah.
Yeah. And so when you were teaching, what age group were you teaching?
It was secondary school
kids.
Okay.
Okay.
It was. So I did not have a passion for primary school kids.
Yeah.
Not
So
at all.
would you say the passion for the primary school books was birthed from having your first son?
100%.
Yeah.
That's where it was birthed from,
Yeah.
because I used to take him to a lot of baby groups and things
Yeah.
like that. I was reading to him. I wanted him to sort of grow up and see himself in a book, be able to pick up a book and identify himself, to say, oh, look, this book looks like me.
Yeah.
I like that book. I want to read it.
I remember my son, when he saw the book, he was like, look, there's me on the cover.
So lovely.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I want, like, for black boys to be able to say, like, this is them, you know, especially at a young age, because when they're young, they're very visual, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So having a book that had a black boy with afro hair, brown skin, like, you know, it's just, that was it was worth it.
It's amazing. And the fact that it lives on forever.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So then after writing the book and publishing the books, you didn't stop there, did you?
No,
There's something else that you did for kids, a recent project of yours. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what the inspiration was for you starting it?
I loved kids. So in terms of older kids, younger kids, I do love kids. And again, I used to teach secondary school age group. But I think having my children, at this point, I had my second son. And yeah, I just thought, do you know what? I just don't like the fact that I'm working all the time. And at that point, it was only 3 days a week. But I just felt like I was giving my time and my energy to an institution that I just didn't really... it's hard to sort of work your way up in. And I just felt like at that point in my life, my children, they were, my mum was thankfully looking after them, so they weren't in nursery at that point yet. But I just felt like I wanted to raise them, like I wanted to be with them from those tender ages. So I just decided to not go back to work after my second. So I was still pregnant, and I remember actually in the 6 weeks holiday, that was when I handed in my notice, and I just said I'm not coming back in September. And my son was actually born in February, so it was quite a while. So I was still actually pregnant for a while until he came, like when I left school. But why I said all of that is because during that time I had already published my second book. My interest was the fact that I loved going to baby groups. I loved going to, so again, I would take my second son, I would take both of them, we would go to toddler groups, baby groups. And I was just like, this is so easy, like in my head anyway. I was like, I could do this. Like literally people are just renting out like a church hall and they've got a little parachute and maybe like a little guitar or like a little drum and they're just playing. And I was like, and then I'm paying money for it. Like, I was just like confused. In my head, I was just like, I can do this. And there was actually a local spot that I used to go to called, well, it's closed down now anyway, but it was fantastic. A lot of mums used to go to it. It was in Woolwich at the time, Thamesmid. And it was huge. It had a soft play. This is where I did my son's first birthday party. And it just had so many different, like, it had a soft play, it had a cafe, it had like I want to say over 5 or over 6, like bit, like for them to play like digital games and things like that. It had like a mini hairdressers for children. It had a theatre. It had so many things and I was just like, wow, like I was like, imagine, like I would love to sort of have, imagine, like, and I remember telling my mum this, I said, I would love to have something like this, like this would just, like, this is fantastic, do you know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, there's always parents having babies, yes. Like, do you know what I mean? And I just remember, because I always used to go to these places, I just remember like saying to my mum, like, I would love to just have something like this. And she was like, yes, of course you can. Like, she was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, obviously not. Like, how can you just, this is like millions. Like, you can't just be having like, anyway. But in her mind, she was like, yeah, like you will. A couple of months later, I started, obviously, because I had written my books. I remember speaking to a friend and she was like, you know what? We could actually, I know she lives in America now. I miss her so much. But anyway, I remember her saying to me, like, we could, you could use like your stories and like read to kids and like make it into like a baby and toddler like group and like just use that like to, again, bring like parents in, like, you know, allow parents to sort of meet and get together and stuff like that. And again, I just didn't even think of it. Like I did, but I didn't. But I was like, okay, like this is good. Like, you know, and again, I think it's just having people around you who support you. Like, it's just not normal, because I don't know why she said that. I don't even know why she would have thought of that. Do you know what I mean? But it's just the fact that she was like, and she just did everything to make it happen. She was like, yep, you know, I'm going to support you. Her and my other friend, they were like, right, I'm gonna, you know, they started making the leaflet, the flyers, you know, and I was just like, wow, okay, this is actually happening. So, yeah, this was during my mat leave. Like, yeah, I want to say, I had stopped working at that point. So obviously I was a stay-at-home mum now. And, you know, through her, I guess, suggestion, we just started looking at how we could make my stories into like a baby and toddler group where I could do like oral storytelling, and then include like little bits of games and things like that for the children to do. So, you know, we sort of tried and tested it in our houses, like with our own children, and they loved it. And then we officially launched it, and it was called Tot Tales. So that was what it was called originally. So that was launched in 2018. Yes, it was 2018. Was it? No, it wasn't. I'm so sorry. It was launched in 2019 because my son was already born at that point, my second son. After that, I would rent out cafes. So the place that I used to go in Thamesmead, they had a theatre space, and I remember speaking to them, and they said, yeah, you can rent out the theatre place for £20, like if you want to, for an hour. And that was the beginning of it. And we, you know, started doing it twice. Is it 3 times a month or twice a month? I forgot how many times we were doing it anyway, but it was a really good reception. We online, social media, we would launch it.
I became that a few times, actually. Yeah.
So, you know, and that was literally how it started off, like just doing stories, reading a story, and doing songs, and you know, just parents being able to talk and meet and things like that. So I was doing that, I want to say twice a month or 3 times a month, and I would rent 2 spaces. I would rent one in the Thamesmead area and then one in Greenwich, just for the 2 different demographics, because there's quite a few mums that live in that area. So lockdown happened. So obviously after lockdown, it was like, right, it's over now, sort of thing. But what happened was, a lot of the parents were still asking, like, could you do these things, but like online, like for the kids to watch? So again, I was like, okay. So I started reading the stories online and then posting them on YouTube. People were watching it, and I was like, this is so weird. Like, you know, but I guess during lockdown, you would
did anything, any entertainment for these kids. Yeah.
It was even entertainment for me as well. Do you know what I mean? Something to do. So yeah, that I just started doing that. And after we came out of lockdown, it was always a possibility that I was going to go back to it, because I really enjoyed like the mother and baby toddler groups and going into cafes. But because of the restrictions, it was quite hard to rent spaces now. Like they made it a bit difficult for people to rent cafes and spaces and things like that, because you'd have to wear like a mask, like a shield, and it just looked weird. So I was just like, I don't know what to do. And then I think I just sort of was like, do you know what? Maybe I could find somewhere like my own space at first. It just popped into my head. I was like, maybe I could find my own space to do my own storytelling and classes and things like that. So yeah, I was looking around, I started speaking to people. There was a lot of people who I knew at that point who had businesses, and they sort of recommended like, you know, schemes and things that, you know, help with funding. Like at that point it was the Princess Trust, and I remember I have a really good friend who's a fashion designer, and she recommended Princess Trust to me, and she actually said, you know, it really helped her. So I was at that last stage, because I think it ends at 30. So I was like, right, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna apply. And then I was able to get on it, and yeah, I just started doing like different courses, and again the research. I just started researching like different, like, how do I do this, how do I make, because I realized that this is now but gonna become a business. I started researching, and then I finally found a way for me to sort of make this a legitimate business, because at that time I was just a sole trader. So a sole trader just meant that I was I didn't really have to register a business. Or did I? No, I didn't. Um, I didn't really. I had have to register a business because I wasn't a limited company or anything like that. I was just a sole trader, meaning like a hairdresser or someone who
Like self-employed.
self-employed, exactly. So at that point, it was just money in my pocket. I didn't have to like declare like anything because it was, it wasn't a massive amount. But then I realized if I want my own space, this now becomes a bit more tricky. So again, there was so much research that got involved. So for about a year, I was just researching. So that's what I do. I just research when I know that I want to get into stuff. And then, like I said, going on the Princess Trust course, that really helped. So I was given a mentor and she was able to advise and guide what I'm supposed to do. And then it made it clear from that point, from being on that course, that actually I want to own a stay and play cafe. And the reason why is beforehand I was just mobile doing storytelling classes, but actually I realized that a lot of mums prefer to come to a space where they have the classes, but then you can also enjoy the stay and play element, and then have a cafe where you can drink and eat and have a chat with parents afterwards. And so I wanted to be able to incorporate all of that in one. So obviously the hardest part again was finding a space, because these things aren't cheap. Do you know what I mean? Especially as a commercial space. But again, research, and I realized that I was able to do it. And I was able to open Tots Playroom last year, 2023.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Amazing.
After all of that, oh my gosh, yeah.
It was a journey to get there, but you did it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Like, so where do you think this comes from? Like this entrepreneurial flair that you have? Because from your story, what you shared so far, it's like you've written books, you've done these stay and play groups, you've now started your own playroom. Like, where does that come from? And it's just like, it's so impossible. The things you're doing are things that people won't even believe that they could do. Yeah, you're just like, no, I'm going to figure out how to do it. And you just do it. Where does that come from?
Well, firstly, I just want to say, I feel like anyone can do it. I'm not even trying to be like cliche or anything. I genuinely feel like if you have that determination and passion and zeal for anything, I feel like you can accomplish anything. I think determination is key. I think a lot of the time I have so many friends who say, oh, I want to do this. And I'm that friend that I'm going to make you do it, because if you've got it, if you've got that passion, then just utilize, like, it's either you're going to lose or you're going to win. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no point sitting in the middle. So for me, I guess I'm fortunate, and maybe this is the way God made me. But actually, I think it was learned. So I think it was taught. So back to what you said about where did it come from? I think it comes from my mum. 100% it is 100% from my mum. So I have to give her all the credit, and obviously God as well, because my mum is the entrepreneur. Like, if anyone knows me, knows my mum, like from when we were young, well, when I was young, she has always had her own business all the time. She's always had her own business. But again, it's just something that you don't think about when you're younger, because you just think your mum's working. Like, she was always working. That's what I remember my mum doing. She was just always doing something, like traveling. Like, she used to go Singapore. She used to go Thailand. She used to go Malaysia. She used to go Dubai, like all these places to be buying goods. China, Vietnam. Like, she's been to more places than me. Like, I don't get it. So she'll go to all these places, Bangkok, and buy like goods and supplies. Like, because what it is way before me, my mum actually used to own a restaurant in Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
It was apparently the equivalent of 805 in her town.
Yeah.
I think she grew up in Ilori. So in that town, a lot of my aunties were like, yeah, that was like the restaurant.
Spot. Go on,
was like, so I was like, oh, okay.
Okay,
So this was before my time.
Yeah.
So I think my mum said it was running for about 10 years.
Wow.
And then obviously, again, I wasn't born. But my mum was a proper workaholic, to the point where she actually had me very, very late in life. So she had me in her, I believe, early 40s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, or even late, like maybe 39, like late 30s. So so she always wanted another one, but she wasn't able to have another child because of how late she had me, because there was so many complications. So I was her only child. So but that's because she worked so much in life. Like, she just was traveling everywhere. She was, in America, all of that. So anyway, I believe that's where I get it from, because my mum Even when I was growing up, she used to have a little stall in Elephant. A lot of my friends remember this because I would always avoid her after school because because she would always be like, Mariam, come, like, because she always wanted me to come and help her, obviously.
What was her store?
She used to have an African shop. An African, like, she would sell African food, like yam, plantain.
Oh no, I can
all,
imagine the secondary school.
The sponge, the African sponge, the African soap, all of that stuff. Like, and obviously everyone loved going to my mum's shop because she would always give them free, like, plantain crisps in it, because obviously plantain crisps was the one in it. Do you know what I mean? So everyone would be like, oh, we're going to your mum's store, like, because that was the only way that you could get home. Like, there was two, like, you could avoid it by going the long way, or you could go the way and then you would have to see her. So yeah, but anyway, I say all that to say that I remember her growing up. So she would wake up early because she would have to go to the market in the mornings, like not Spitalfields, but one market in East London, to buy all her, like, pepper and all the things that she was gonna sell. She would have a van that she would be driving.
Wow.
And literally, like, can you imagine a white van, a Nigerian lady in a white van? So she did all of that. But again, it just, when you just, it's so like, it's just in you that you don't think anything of it. So it's not like when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be like my mum. No, it's just something that you just see, isn't it? So I've realised now, as I've gotten older, obviously I think life and circumstances, when I had my children, I realised that because I saw my mum working so much, I didn't want that. I didn't want them growing up thinking, where is mummy all the time? Like, I wanted my work to work around my family. And so I used that to be able to say, right, what can I do then? Because obviously everything in life is going to take your time. If you're going to do anything properly, you're going to have to put in some time and some effort and some work. You know what I mean? It's not always going to be roses, and it's not always going to be like, ideal to what you want, but in the initial stages anyway. So I obviously, when I thought about this Stay and Play Cafe, that's why I said I want it to work in the time frame of so I open from 9:30 and I finish at 3, which is within the school hours. That, to me, was working around my children, so then I was able to drop them off to school and then pick them up.
Amazing.
And so yeah, it just worked out that way. But that's initially what I wanted. I didn't want it to be that I was doing a regular 9 to 5 job where, I'm coming home late and then I don't get to see them after school and things like that. So yeah, it did, even though looking at my mum growing up, because of how much she worked, I think that entrepreneurial spirit made me like, okay, I do want to be that way, but
not
to a balance. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I would 100% say that my mum is the reason why I'm the way
absolutely. Now you give the backstory and context. It's like, okay, you can definitely see the line and how it's come across.
Yeah, and she pushed me. She pushed me so much, like, to the point where I said about the whole when I said, oh, I would love to have this way. She was like, yeah. And my mum, again, like, she gifted money to me for that process as well. Again, that it's just, you can't really, I mean, come on, like, it is amazing, and I'm so grateful for her. So it's just people that just want to see you win. Do you know what I mean? So I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for her. I always tell her I need to put her little picture in the shop or something. I don't know.
That'd be cute. No, amazing. So then, what would you say? You've been in business for about a year, just over a year now. I remember you had your anniversary not too long ago. Yay! So what's been the highlight of the first year, would you say?
Oh, do you know what? It's just meeting all the different parents. I just didn't realise, like, how much a space like that is needed. Like, when I hear parents come in and, you get to really speak, to different families and, even dads as well, when they come in and they're just like, I just wish there was something like this when I was growing up, or I just wish there was something like this in this area, or whatever. And it's just nice, like, even though it's on a small scale, because obviously where I am now, I wish I could have the biggest space, that would be my dream. But, I realise that you've got to start from somewhere. You've got to start small, and the fact that it is going well, I'm grateful. Like, as you said, it's been the first year. I think having and meeting parents of all different walks of life. Like, I met a parent the other day. She said her husband teaches one of the politicians' sons.
Oh, wow.
What was it? Priti Patel.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, wow, like she just come to my shop regularly.
Yeah.
Like her husband teaches her son. Like it's just wow. She said he had parents even him, you know. So just things like that, like people from different walks of life, like, you know, it's nice. It's just nice to be able to, and you've got one common thing, which is children. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's nice. It's like no one is like that is the space. You come there because you've got children and you want to meet other parents and you want your child. You want to be able to spend time with your child and play with them, and you know. So I think that has been the highlight of having this whole business and doing this journey. Do you know what I mean? And even seeing my children benefit from it, because my daughter was with me. A lot of you guys, well, people that know me, before because now she's in the school nursery. So, but before that, again, I didn't want to put her in the mainstream like nursery, just because, again, I wanted to spend time with her. And she benefited from my stay and play because she was with me every day at work, which is nice.
And she has all the customers,
and all the customers would be like, "Oh, where's Bryony today? Where's your daughter today?" And sometimes she'll be with her dad or like my mum or something. But yeah, it was just nice that, again, I didn't have to shut them out in the process. They were able to be in my journey, in my, like, you know, it's for them as well. So
that's amazing. And it's building legacy for them, isn't it? Because it's teaching them a lot as well. Like they're seeing mummy work, but they're not
subconscious, isn't it? I don't think they know at this point, like how I did.
But they will when they're older, right? And they're like, wow, mum did that. Yeah, amazing. So then, just finally, then a few more questions before I let you go. So, in terms of anybody listening right now that perhaps wants to start their own kids cafe or start their own business in general, any advice that you would give them or any tips?
Do it. I've had a lot of people reach out to me over the past year about this, and again, like the children's books, I just always say do it. I just say do it, and I am always open to helping people, like, because again, I had no idea where to start. Like I said, I just researched and I found my way into where I am now. And I think knowledge is key. You know, a lot of the time we think, you know, you could have passion and you can have zeal, but if you don't have the knowledge behind it as well, it's kind of hard to be steered in the right direction. So I think having understanding of what it is that you want to do, whether it's whatever it is, you know, like if you're asking about the Stay and Play Cafe, I think finding just, I guess, a foundation of what you want, like of where you know, location, what it is that, what your target audience, what is it, what are you trying to achieve? Like, you know, because for me, when I thought about this space, you know, my faith again comes into it, because again, I wanted to reach people. I wanted it to be a place where, you know, people could meet and, you know, single parents and things like that. I would love to have the opportunity to minister to them, and, you know, to whatever capacity. This was a dream, I guess, that was birthed from my faith, I guess, like something that I would want. So I would always say, like, what is it that you want? What's your aim? You know, is it financial? Is it that you just want to make money? Because this isn't something that's just going to give you quick money. This, I wouldn't advise that. This is definitely like a slow sort of burner, if you want to say that. So yeah, anyone who wants to start something like this, I would just say do your research and speak to people who you know, because I did that initially. I remember I started following accounts of people who owned stay and play cafes or soft plays or whatever, mobile soft plays, you know, places that were in, you know, on the high street and things like that. And I would follow them. I would reach out to them. I wasn't afraid to reach out to them. A lot of them didn't reply. Yeah, that was fine. I would go there physically, because again, I love to go to these places. I would go there and I would see, oh, okay, what they're doing. I would do my own little research. I would speak to them. I would ask questions. So I think you have to be someone who is forthright, and you have to be someone who is determined to sort of get to where you want to be. So I would say do your research, speak to people, ask a lot of questions, and ultimately have a vision of what it is that you want to achieve and where you want to be. That's
really good advice. Yeah. Very good advice.
And financially.
Go on.
The biggest one is finances. Yeah. The biggest one. So obviously we're on this, you know,
not enough money podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, we talk about money.
And I want to say I was really blessed financially. Like, I'm not even just saying it but it was something that I don't think I would be here without the blessing of. So before this stage happened in terms of me opening Tots Playroom, me and my husband were in the process of buying another house. So we had bought our first house when my son was born. We had lived there for 7 years, lovely. We had had 3 more children in that house. And it was just time to upscale, because where we were living was a masonette, ground floor. There wasn't any stairs or anything like that. It was lovely, beautiful. We had a garden, a drive, but we just needed that upstairs living space, I think, as they were getting older. And so we started looking to buy again, to sell and to buy again. So this was in 2020. So this was just before lockdown. Yeah, just before lockdown. So we were looking, and then we found the place that we wanted to buy. So we put in an offer, and it was all going through. And then a year or 2 later, and the reason why I say 2 is because what had happened is it was a probate situation, which meant that there was a death in the person that we were buying the house from, which meant that the process was taking much longer. And because it was locked down, the borders were closed, because the person that we had to access their documents from were from another country. So it was just so long. So the reason why I'm saying all of that is because the money that obviously we were going to use, because we had saved and we knew financially we're ready to go to buy. This wasn't just like, okay, yes, we're just gonna buy and see what happens. We had saved, and we had planned, but when it fell through, we were so upset, because we were just like, oh, and obviously you keep looking, but the problem is with the houses on the market now, there's not many that suit what you want, especially within the area that you want as well. So we wanted a specific area, a specific location, and we also wanted it to be right near the kids' school, so and we wanted a certain amount of bedrooms, and also because we were fortunate to have a driveway and a big garden, you sort of want the same as well. You're not going to go back.
You're going to go up, exactly.
Yeah, so again, it was very hard. There wasn't, and within the budget that you have, so there wasn't any for a good 2 years. There was we were looking, and there wasn't any. So within that stage, that was where we were blessed financially, because we were able to use those savings to be able to start my Tots. Wow. And so I guess that is the backstory financially, because yes, even though you can say that you want to do something, you really have to plan finances, because even though this wasn't planned physically, I feel like it was God. And I always say that to my husband, because obviously, he was like, we can't buy and we can't set up a shop in the same year. It's impossible. One or the other is gonna happen. So he was more so banking on the fact that let's buy, but because it didn't happen, I was like, well, let's just use this opportunity to do the shop. Like? It was actually it was actually quite, do you know what, again, I think because my husband probably sees how sort of like determined I am with things, I think he just wanted to support me. And I think, like he did with the books and things like that, I think he was just like, if this is what you feel like God wants for you, then it's another leap of faith. We just have to take that leap of faith, because it's a lot of money.
That's huge.
It is a lot of money. And, people always ask, like, how much did you spend? And, I won't go into the details, but it's a lot of money.
I mean, it was a deposit for a house. So.
Yes, there you go. That's all I can say. Yeah. So it was a lot of money. So the fact that we were, like, my husband agreed, it was just, again, like, I just want to say it's God. I just want to say it's God. It's nothing to do with, like, because of how we are as a our relationship between each other. I just want to say that he trusted that God was going to do it. And of course, it's not like a flippant statement. It's very much like, I think I was so what's the word? I was so like, I realised that there was things that happen for a reason. That doors open and close, and I feel like that door was closed for us for the house. And I was like, how long are we gonna wait for a house to come up? Like, and we're just gonna be sitting with this, because we can be sitting with this and we can wait. We absolutely can. But because of how much I felt like we should, like, I wanted to do the shop. I think it was like, we just have to take that leap of faith. But the reason why I say it was God is because when we did take that leap of faith, a year later we were able to buy our house.
Look at that.
So
again, you got both.
yeah. So again, like my husband said, we won't be able to do it at the same time, but God allowed it that he just was able to financially bless us because we trusted him, I guess, with our finances ultimately. But at the same time, we saw an opportunity and we took it. And I feel like there is time and chance and there is opportunity. And I feel like if you have that opportunity, a lot of the time we sit on it, and we don't take that door of opportunity because yes, it could fail, but sometimes it can't, it doesn't, you know? So I think for us, we were blessed enough to be able to just see the opportunity, and I did. And I was like, yeah, this is it. Obviously with a lot of prayer, with a lot of prayer. Yeah, so I would say that is the biggest factor, the fact that we were able to, you know, use the money that we had from our house deposit to be able to start this up. So I would say anyone who's starting this up, please save, because it is, you know, or, you know, there are other schemes like, you know, GoFundMe's and things like that, you know, obviously if you want to set it up as a charity, but I think planning wise it's very, there's a lot of money, and there's so much more, like, you know, in terms of, you know, there's so many things that you don't account for. So I feel like, again, just knowing your household's budget and knowing the things that it's going to take to be able to do it. I think that's the main thing.
No, thank you. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for all your pearls of wisdom. Like, I'm sure it's going to help loads of listeners. And I think that's why I like to have guests like you on, just to show that it is possible. Because I think a lot of times people have ideas and they just think, oh, that can never happen for me. So like, just listen back to your story where you went to that stay and play place with your mum and you saw this and like, I want to have something like this one day. And a lot of people have those same thoughts. You go somewhere, you're like, oh, I would love to do this, and that's where it ends.
That's it.
But you took it that one step further and you're like, okay, how can I make that a reality? And you start taking steps towards making that happen. And if you can do it, there's no reason why anyone else can't do it. And I've said that, and that sounds bad, but not to say that if you could do it, but the point
that is the truth, and that's what I want, because I'm just an ordinary person. I don't come from wealth. Exactly. I don't come from, you know, a certain class. I come from, just as you said, a person who has come from ends, a person who has literally said, I would love this, and you just run with it. So I would like, that is exactly what I want.
And I would love, exactly, for everyone to do the same. So don't just think it, but if you think it and you have that passion for it, take those steps to make it a reality. Don't just sit on those ideas and dreams, because life is too short. But no, thank you so much, Mariam, for coming on today and for sharing your story. I know this isn't something you do ordinarily, so I do thank you for letting me call in this favour and you coming on. And no, I really, really do appreciate you and appreciate all the wisdom that you have shared on this episode. So before you go anyway, any final thoughts, any final thing that you want to leave with the audience? How can we find you? How can we connect with you?
You can find me I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram, _Tots Playroom, with another underscore. Like I said, I'm located in Mottingham, Eltham, in the SE9 area, and obviously for my children's books as well, if anyone wants to have a look, they're on Amazon, and I believe Barnes and Noble online as well, but Amazon's just the go-to place anyway. Final thoughts, I guess, I don't really have a final thought. I guess for me, I would just say, like what you said, I think if you think something, I think you can, it's possible. It's possible. So, like, you know, if God plants, I feel like the desires that God puts in our hearts, they're there for a reason, and I feel like they can come to pass if it's in the right environment, if it's structured in the way where you obviously have that determination, the passion, but then also people who support you, want to see you win. So I think if you have a vision and if you have something that you want to do, go for it. Absolutely go for it.
Thank you so much, Mariam, for coming on today's episode.
Thank you, Tolly.
And it's been lovely. No, thank you.
Thank you.